Welcome. In this video, we are going to build an on-screen button that has functions to it. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is basically we're going to create a rectangle shape, and then we're going to put some words in it to tell what the button does, and that's going to be our button on the screen. And then we're going to ask our code every time it loops through its a loop is to go check to see if a screen press has happened within that rectangle's outline. So let's get started. First thing we do is we're just going to draw our rectangular button. And this one I'm going to leave it, my X and Y starting coordinates is going to be 0, 0 at the top left corner. Well, let's just give it a little bit of space from the edge. So maybe 5 and 5. So 5 over, 5 down. And then the next thing we're going to do, let's make it 150 wide. And this is the height, and let's make it 50 high. And let's go ahead and download that and run it. Ooh, save our program. Yes, and you should save yours as well. So I'm going to name this one my name. You should name it your name. And then on-screen buttons. Now I'm going to call mine video because I want to make sure I know that it's the video version. I'm going to hit save, compiling the project, and it is going to run it. Awesome. So that looks like a pretty good size for a button. I'm pretty happy with that. Now let's get some text inside there. And I want to draw the text, so print the word vex code, but this one I'm going to say, I don't know what we're going to say yet. Words here. I don't know. And we're going to put this on the brain, and let's download that and see where it ends up. Run. And you can see it's way too high right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the cursor. Before I do the print of the words, I'm going to set the cursor to, let's see, let's try row 2, and we're just going to play around till we find it. Now, where the text is, that looks pretty good. And then maybe I'm going to go over to column 5, just to try and center it, download it, and run it. That looks like a little much. I'm going to go 3 and call it good. Okay. So by doing this, now if I change the font size, so I come down here and I grab a different font, it's going to change the height and width of the columns and rows. So you just kind of got to play with this. I don't know of any way to get it really squared away. I could also add a set fill color here. Maybe I wanted to set a fill color to blue. And then I'm going to set my pen width to 2 and my pen color. So now I'm just kind of getting a feel for what I want it to look like. And then maybe I'm going to go with a yellow outline to it. And let's just download this and run it and see what our button looks like. Awesome. I'm pretty happy with that. And maybe I would go with a column here of 4. So that's how far over it goes. I'm going to scooch it a little bit more. All right. So we've got a rectangle whose top coordinates is 5, 5. And whose bottom coordinates are 155 and 55, because we've got to scooch over, right? So it goes over 150, which puts the right-hand side at 155, and it goes down 50 from 5, so the bottom is at 55. So we need those coordinates for later. We'll keep them in our brain. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a situation where every time the code loops through, it's going to say, hey, if there was a screen pressed inside of the 55 to 155-55 region, inside that rectangle, then do some code that's next. So to do that, we're going to need an if-then statements. So an if-then statement runs if this, whatever you put in here is true, it does the code inside the statement. If it's not true, then it skips this code and goes down and does whatever's below it. So it either does the code inside here or skips it. So what we want to do here is we want to say if the screen press X position. So notice this is a round one. I can't put this in here. I need a logic one first. So I come down here and I say, okay, so if the X position is greater than 5 of the screen press, but less than 155, which is the right-hand side of our triangle. So our triangle goes from 5 to 155. So I'm going to do an and symbol first because I need 2 things, one for the beginning, one for the end. And I'm going to say if is greater than 5. And what I'm looking to be greater than 5 is the screen press X position. It's got to be more than 5 to be inside the square. And it also needs to be less than 155 so it doesn't go out the other side. So it's got to be, the screen position has to be between 5 and 155. Okay, so now that's left and right taken care of, but we don't want this to trigger unless it's also in the rectangle up and down. So we need another and. So I'm going to pull this and out, and I'm going to grab another and put it in there. So we're going to do another and. Ooh. Wait, let's just test this first before we get too far into it. And then let's see if this works. We're going to draw a circle. I want to show you a few things before we do the other part of it. So draw a circle at 240, 120, and 100. So we'll be able to see the circle really well. Okay, so now I'm going to download this and run it. So now if I press over here, nothing happens. But if I press here, nothing also happens. So it looks like my code doesn't work. And here's the reason why. This is really interesting. It takes the brain about a tenth of a second to run through, or a hundredth of a second to run through all this code. It does it super fast. It gets to the if statement that says if the screen position, the X position, do I have the right thing on here? Yes. If the X position is greater than 5 and less than 55, it does this. But the problem is it gets there and so fast, and it doesn't do it twice. When it gets to the bottom, it just stops. So what we need now is we need to set up a loop that's going to repeat forever. So I'm going to grab a forever loop and put it around my if statement. That way, it keeps repeating on and on and on and on, doing this forever. Okay, so one thing to remember, if you have a forever loop, don't put blocks below the forever loop, because once you get to a forever loop, you're kind of stuck in there. There is a way out of it, but it's complicated, so make sure when you're planning stuff, if you're going to make more things happen after the if statement, they have to go inside the forever loop. Now, I didn't put all of this inside the forever loop because it really just needs to run once to put the button on the screen. We don't need to constantly run it over again. And every time we run a command, it uses up a little bit of our battery energy. So we don't want to put extra commands in our loops that we don't need to repeat. All right, so far so good. Now let's try this. So I'm going to download this and I'm going to run it. So instead of just looking for the touch once, it's constantly looking now to see if the screen's been touched. Here, nothing, but here, yes, perfect. Except my draw circle is wrong. I wanted this to be 240 by 120. I'm going to download this and run this. And it works perfectly. The only problem is, I'm going to run it again. The only problem is, it also, if I push down here, it also works. I only want it to work when I push here. So one more time, I push over here, it doesn't work, because we said only draw the circle if I push between 5 and 155. But we didn't give it a height to go into, so even a push down here, it makes it run. So the next thing to do is to add in that extra detail. So I'm going to come back here to my code. And in my forever loop, right here, I need to add a second condition. I want it to be between 5 and 155 in the X position, and between 5 and 55 in the Y, because that's the coordinates of my Y. So I'm going to pull this and loop, or this and condition, and grab another and. I can put as many as I want together. So I can put the and up here. Now this part's tricky. You've got to grab in the middle. If you grab over here, you'll pull one of these out. You got to grab in the middle, but then you have to snap it into this first hole. You've got to get the corner over there to where you see that hole. See how it just turned white right there? Now it will snap in there. If I try and grab it and put it in like this, it'll never work. I've got to put the left edge into that hole, just like that. And now I need to create one of these out here. So to do that, I'm going to need something just like this. So I'm going to click on this and here, and then just do Control-C, Control-V, and it'll make another one for me. Now I want to change this to Y, because I want to do the Y condition now. And it's got to be greater than 5, so it's got to be below 5, but it needs to be less than 55, because my rectangle is 50 tall, and that's going to be the Y. I think that's it. That might work. So let's drop that. It's going to be hard to do this zoomed in. Let me zoom out a little bit. Again, I've got to drag it and drop it where the corner is over, the left-hand side's over there. Now it's in there. Now I've got a bunch of conditions. I have 4 conditions that have to be met. And because they're and, all 4 have to be true before anything happens. So when I press the screen, my press has to be greater than 5 in the X, but less than 155. It also has to be greater than 5, and it has to be less than 155 to make this work. Okay, so let's download this and run it. Now, if I press over here, nothing happens. Good. If I press over here, nothing happens. But if I press just in the right place, I get it. So that's how you create an on-screen button. You could create another one of these if statements at different positions for a different button farther down the screen or to the right or left, or you can do whatever you want with these positions. It's a pretty cool function to run. And you could put whatever complicated code here. You could have this start a 100 lines of code inside this if statement. You could put whatever you want in here, as complicated as you want, to make whatever you want to have happen. All right, before we're done, let's comment up this code because we kind of know how it works now. So here, this is set the starting values. Wait, create the button graphic. So that takes care, so create the button graphic. That takes care of this, and this. Okay? Oh, and then we know what this is called. This is going to be called, this button is called draw circle or draw a circle. You would name yours whatever you wanted to, right? And then, so maybe I'm going to add one more thing, and I'm going to say name of the button. And then here maybe I'm going to also say above this one, because I need to remember what this means, this is sets the position of the text. Or maybe I should say adjusts. Because now if I download and run this because I've changed the text, it won't be in a very good spot. Yeah, so I needed to move it over, so maybe this should be a 3 instead. All right. So draw a circle on the brain, name of the button. Okay, yep. And then I come down here and let's put a comment in here. The sets the location of the button X should be the left and right coordinate, and Y should be the top. When it turns red, I think that means it's too long for the comment, so I'll add a second row of comment here. Should be the top and bottom of the button. All right, awesome. And then this is whatever I want to happen when the button is pressed, goes here. And if you add a bunch of stuff, I'd want you to go in there and comment in what the stuff does. So if this was really my final project, I wouldn't type this in here. I would have put in here, draws a circle when the button is pressed, kind of a thing. Okay, so that's it for our code today. Great job today. Use this to add some functionality to your screen.